Alexandra, thank you so much for coming on the Psyche Perspective podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. And please introduce yourself for people who don't know your work yet.
I'm really glad to be here. I'm glad to meet you, Jeanne, and you, Stephen. I'm Alexandra Stockwell. I am a physician turned relationship and intimacy coach, and I specialize in showing couples how to have beautiful, dynamic, passionate relationships. I work with couples, individuals, and really anyone who wants to enjoy their relationships more deeply, because it turns out that a lot of the same skills that we use in our romantic relationships, there's a ripple effect and we get to improve all of our relationships.
Wow. That's wonderful. And I know you have a podcast that's really engaging.
It's called the Marriage Podcast.
The Marriage Podcast, yeah. What inspired you to create the podcast?
Oh, I really enjoy that question. So I have a unique perspective. Having practiced family medicine for a while, I've done all kinds of different trainings, conventional and unconventional, in spirituality, in coaching, in sensuality and sexuality. I've coached hundreds of couples. And as I know that you know, I've celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary recently. And so
Congratulations.
Thank you. Drawing on all of those different experiences, and having been a child of divorce, married to a child of divorce, I've developed a way to really make relationships wonderful. I really feel that the most important thing, is a lack of education. That is why we have so much divorce and sorrow and malcontent in relationships. Even when people get along really well, the passion dries up. And so it seems like a good relationship, but so much more is possible. I really believe that having a fantastic relationship is entirely a learnable skill. It's not that you need to be born with the gene active, it's a learnable skill. So, getting back to your question about why I started my podcast, is that I want to make this available to anyone who wants to listen. And so the podcast is actually this very beautiful opportunity, because I'm used to diving deep with people, working together for 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, or in one of my group programs, and really layering things in and experiencing a deep relationship with my clients. The podcast is a totally different thing. It's like somebody might listen to half an episode, and I want it to be meaningful and impactful, and that they have something to implement in their life. And I love when people contact me after hearing podcast episodes, but the vast majority, the thousands of listeners don't. And so it's really a new playground for me, all with the intention of allowing people to have access to the education that results in fantastic relationships.
Wow, that's wonderful. And that's why when I found you on Instagram, and I think late last year, and I sent you a message, joined your Facebook group, I was just amazed by how much I thought we had a good relationship. But there was so much more that I'm learning, bringing to the relationship and telling him, oh, you know what, let's join, let's listen, see what else is going to be offered today. Like I know one of the Facebook lives you held, you talked about how your husband used to bring you pieces of wood for gifts.
Yes, and, like a little piece of driftwood and a little shell. Yes.
Yeah, and then you talked about how you communicated your way into getting the 24 red roses. So just if you could give us newer relationship tips on how to have that kind of communication, like what's the first thing we should be aiming for?
Okay, I really like this question because it's very subtle. It's what you're asking is actually a very high level skill and presence in the relationship, because just if we take the like back up to the eagle's eye view, the thing that's key, and I'll address it to the two of you because that will
Yes,
be simpler,
definitely.
is that you, Jean, you honor your own experience. You don't pretend a piece of driftwood brings you joy. Like you really honor your experience and who you are and what you desire. And also genuinely honor Stephen and who he is and what he's expressing and what his intentions are. I've
Mhm.
written a book called Uncompromising Intimacy. And when I speak about being uncompromising, this is what I'm referring to, that you don't, you know, in a toxic relationship where there's a narcissist or something, then and one person is dominating, it's very easy to understand how that is not going to lead to collaboration and both people being happy. But
Mhm.
what often happens is that we hold back on our own desires in order to make our partner comfortable. And that is another way of compromising, which really undermines long term passion. So if I go to the example of my husband and me, he would bring me as a gift, a very meaningful gift from his point of view, the little pieces of driftwood, the shells. And that had everything to do with the fact that gifts were material and a little manipulative in his upbringing. And so
Oh.
for him, it was much more meaningful to not spend money, not do anything conventional or typical, and instead to be on a walk in nature and think of me and choose just the piece of driftwood that he was going to bring me. On my side, I was like, that, you know, when my 5-year old gives me a piece of driftwood, I'm grateful and happy, but that's
Mhm.
not what I want from my man. And I don't feel like an honored, adored woman when I receive a piece of driftwood. However, if I were to say to him, "What's that?" or "Are you kidding me?" or "I don't like that," or "You might as well have given me nothing," or any of the things that I wouldn't have expressed because I didn't have the courage to be that direct early in our marriage. However, I felt those things. And so the answer to your question is to look for the communication under the communication,
Mhm.
which is not always so easy, especially if we have a lot of reactive feelings. But ultimately, I was able to see that he meant to honor me, that he meant to give me something meaningful. He meant to do something special. And even if it didn't feel that way to me, I could see that that was his intention. So
Mhm.
the first thing I did was just respond to the intention. Like, thank you for choosing something so meaningful for you as the gift for me.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of ways of saying that. And then I don't remember how many years it took. Like this is not a quick process, but if you have this established up front, you're in good standing. Then and also I didn't no one gave me the education. There's no reason it should take anyone anywhere near as long as anything took me. And then I got to where I could say, I know that your goal is to give me something meaningful, that you're expressing your love.
Mhm.
And I might enjoy if you did that, if actually you did spend some time and spend some money and choose something for me. So,
Mhm.
actually, what I didn't share in that Facebook Live is the next few phases. So, he stopped giving me driftwood and shells, but he bought me things that like I didn't like or I didn't need, or they certainly weren't special. They just like missed the mark. I can't actually think of an example of that, but it's been too long ago, but I remember the feeling.
Yeah.
And then because we were in dialogue about this,
Mhm.
when I actually received it, I responded to his intention for sure, but I did circle back and express that it wasn't quite right. And then he felt terrible. He's like, I've tried and I
Oh.
still failed. So I suggested he ask my daughter. I At this time we have 4 children. My daughter's the oldest, and I'm trying to think. At this time she's probably 12.
Mhm. Wow.
And she suggested he get me an electric foot massager. And she was right. She was
Wow.
right. When I got that gift, I just felt exactly the way that I wanted to feel. It was going to
Mhm.
pamper me. He had taken the time, he had purchased it, he wrapped it. And when I unwrapped it, what it was even better than the anticipation.
Mhm.
And so I think he asked her twice, and then somehow he got it. And he hasn't
Mhm.
asked her, and it has been absolutely fantastic ever
Wow.
since. And so I guess if I break this down, there's for myself being honest with what my experience is
Mhm.
and not settling. And by settling, that part has nothing to do with him. I mean, not convincing myself that I love something I didn't love.
Mhm.
And really starting by affirming him and receiving the intention, and then helping him win. Like, I never had any question. I stated, like, what you want is to express your love and give this to me. I'd love to give you a few pointers on how to be even more successful at it. Like, he's not going to say no to that. It's a completely different communication than saying, you really just didn't do a good job, or
Mm.
even
Yeah.
less pleasant than that. So, tell me your
Wow.
thoughts. What do you hear as I share this
Oh,
story?
oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so profound because I know a lot of people say you have to compromise in your relationship. You have to compromise. And compromise to so many people is I will forego my experiences to allow him to feel better.
Mhm.
But what you're saying, honoring my experiences, uh, recognizing that he did in his eyes, he did a really good thing. He wants to help me. He wants to make me feel special, but that's not how I feel. How special it is. Actually, it reminds me. I'm sorry, I have to
It's
share
okay.
our first Valentine's Day. He did good.
Yes.
He brought the first as had just started dating. He made some chocolate molds with strawberries, and then bought me knives, like kitchen knives. And I remember I love the strawberries. I was like, thank you, but I was still wondering, like, why would you give me knives? But I knew that he had complained that all my knives are either too old or too small. Like, but I did appreciate, like, he recognized like something that he thought I needed, that I wanted,
That would
and
make your
that
life so much better. I mean, a good pair of knives,
Yeah.
that is life changing.
We still
Though
have
it
them
is not
today.
very romantic or honoring of the beauty that you're dating.
yeah. But it was just a nice gesture, and like you said, I had to kind of drop hints for the next. My birthday was 2 months after Valentine's Day, and I had to like drop hints of that. Oh, women love flowers. Women love this, and try to help him out, like help him and kind of nudge him to the right direction. And I think he's getting it.
You know, that is very elegant for the first few months of dating. That's so beautiful. And the thing that I was thinking of while you were talking is that either explicitly, ideally explicitly, but sometimes implicitly, it's very important to know what is the foundation of your relationship.
Mhm.
And we are no longer in a time when people get married because the fathers are working out a business deal or
Mm.
the aristocracy in Europe is making peace among countries.
Yes.
Mhm.
And there certainly are some people in religious communities who are very clear why they're getting married. But the majority of the population, I assume people who are listening to this interview, we have a choice in what the basis of the relationship is, what the foundation is. And like chemistry, both chemistry and getting along well with personalities, and also in more intimate sexual ways, that is awesome at the beginning of a relationship, but it is not actually a sustainable foundation. There needs to
Mhm.
be something else. And so I wasn't so clear about all of this when my husband and I got together, but we were very clear that we were both complete top of our list, committed to our own and one another's personal growth.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
having that clear has created a context to navigate all kinds of complicated conversations. And so, even though we're talking about gifts, I actually want to, if that's okay in
Of
this
course.
context, to take it into the realm of sexuality, because one of the biggest places where what we're talking about occurs is in the bedroom where a woman fakes orgasms. And
Mm.
when I ask a woman, why is that not a good idea? She will come up with answers often saying, well, it's not honest and, you know, things along those lines. And that's true. But one of the most important reasons is because if you fake an orgasm, you're training your partner to touch you and
Ah,
stimulate you in ways
when-
that you're
mm.
not actually enjoying. And so it is a total lose lose, even if it feels convenient in the moment.
Mhm.
I
It's so
mean,
true.
right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
You don't want your partner to be like, I'm a sex god. Actually horrible at it, right?
Exactly. And so that's also true when you're given kitchen knives on Valentine's Day. It's like you can appreciate this was a really loving thing to do. I mean, as I've said, I'm repeating myself, a good set of kitchen knives changes your life.
Mm.
And you can receive that. You can be glad and, let's just say, for these purposes, in the moment, fake an orgasm, but you need to make sure
Mm.
that you circle back, or you are training him to bring you kitchenwares every time there's a special occasion, or
Yeah.
the equivalent, or one of those meters to measure tire pressure on your car. Like, you need to find the way to bring things up, knowing that, well, if it's true that you're both committed to growing individually and together, and that you both want to be honoring one another to the best of your abilities. And that provides the courage to get through a conversation that, there's no question, it is easier to compromise. I mean, you
Yes.
end up disappointed, but it is easier to
It is.
compromise.
Definitely. Would you like to add something?
That's just really good point how you correlate the faking the orgasm to faking like liking the gift. That's really, I think that's a good point. I think Jean's a lot better at giving me gifts than I am of giving her gifts. I'm getting better, but I'm not up to her level yet.
Well, when it comes to sexuality, I believe it's both people's responsibility, because it's not your job as the man to be a mind reader and to know exactly what Jean's experiencing in her body. It's your
Hmm.
responsibility to know what you're
Yes.
experiencing, Jean, and
Mhm.
express it in a way that is honoring and supportive and get both of you more of what you enjoy. Now, when it comes to the gifts, actually, you are expected to be a mind reader a little bit because the surprise is part of the situation, but you can get some principles and some suggestions. And honestly, if someone is listening and this is a current challenge, I literally recommend writing down some suggestions and like leaving a wish list for Santa, but don't think of it that way. Think of it as educational, not that it's like an indulgent pass or that your partner gets to be lazy and just pick something off the list. Think of it as educational. And in fact, rather than making a list where you put the links to the item, you might say, for example, any kind of products that make bubbles or nice smells for the bath. And then there's still some choice. And then you might go ahead and say, and I prefer calming scents like lavender, and I don't like eucalyptus, or, something that if you don't say, it will just be this long drawn out process, and it may or may not be something he gets right.
Yeah. So I forget the name of the website, but there's a website. It's I think it's by the British, but it's like trying to teach people that porn is not sex.
Oh.
And trying to I really have the name is completely like gone. I can't remember, but I remember when we got together and I knew like, okay, communication will be key. Because for some reason, guys think what somebody else liked, someone else is going to like. So for us, it would be almost like you put on that, we would put on that video. And if I see something, I'm like, oh, you see that? Kind of that. Like I'll give him hints because I know he's really good at picking up hints. But I didn't want to like say, no, I don't like that. And then hurt him, right? So it's true, like communication and being not expecting to read my mind about what feels good to me versus what could feel good to somebody else or what he thinks feels good.
Yeah, and I really like how you've just said that because sometimes, well, as a woman, a heteronormative woman, we don't know what the man is thinking unless we ask, first of all. And so I remember thinking that I would really hurt my husband's feelings. This was years ago, 20 years ago, that if I said anything that I was concerned he'd crumple, like he would just lose all confidence and then things would be worse. That was the risk. But finally, I think I said to him, I have some, this was, I would train people to do this much more elegantly now. But my best then was, I have some suggestions that I think would make things in the bedroom better for both of us. Are you interested? And he was like, yes, I would love that. And that response I have come to understand, as long as it's offered without blame and criticism, and I just modeled it without blame and criticism, the response of yes, please tell me is really common and continually surprising to women who say it. But I think most men, if there were a manual, if there were instructions, if he didn't have to like figure out the mysterious creature that is a woman, life would be very appealing.
True. I've read some of those manuals. I don't know how complete they are.
Well, I probably don't agree with what's in those manuals, but it still means having a manual is appealing. My husband it's like a running joke between the two of us that he often just says, well, where's the manual?
I'm a manual guy too.
What'd you say?
I'm a manual guy too, so I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah. But the thing is that every time that my husband got something right, I don't really like using that language because it puts it too much in terms of right or wrong. But every time he had a real success, it built his confidence. And we like to think of mature relationships as built on freedom and choice and love and connection. And we are mammals, and the Pavlovian response still pertains. Pavlov with the dog and, the salivating. And so giving a positive response creates more of the same thing. And I'm not talking about doing it in a way that feels like you're training a dog, which I know wouldn't speak to the two of you, but there are plenty of people who think of it that way. I'm not suggesting having like the internal feeling be like training a dog. It can feel collaborative, but we can still tap into the truth of what it is to be a mammal, which is that respond to rewards and positive feedback, and we avoid things when we have negative feedback, which again is why we want to respond gracefully when we receive kitchen knives and little pieces of driftwood. And then don't consider that the end of the conversation. Consider it the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. So you can tell, like, hint, and you can have the conversation, but it doesn't mean they will get it right the first time. And it will take time to get it right. How can we navigate our own impatience into waiting until they have gotten it right?
Is this specific to gift giving or
Whichever,
more
gift
generally?
giving, all sexually and intimacy, in terms of intimacy and one
Okay.
person. Yeah.
So impatience for our partner to change is really a misplaced focus of attention.
Wow.
Because in every situation, there are ways that I'll speak woman to woman in this way because it's not always, but it is far more often that the woman is waiting for the man to change. And much less often, though still occurs, that the man is waiting for the woman to change. I mean, maybe he's waiting for her to change her financial spending habits and so forth. But when we're talking about, or to just be available for sex, but mostly if we're talking about gift giving and sexuality and personal growth, it is more common that it's the woman who's getting impatient with the man. So in that scenario, this is a kind of a subtle concept, but we're basically giving away power in our impatience because we are waiting for our partner to make changes so that we feel good, so that we have inner peace or joy or whatever it is we're after. And so, what I tell clients is, well, I'll just pick an example. Let's say, I don't know, a partner who chews with their mouth closed and it drives you crazy during meals. We'll pick something like that, okay?
Oh my gosh. That just hit home so much. Oh my God, I feel bad. Like, I'm not picking on you.
No, I brought it up as a random example. So, I know this. I can like cringe at every mealtime. I can shift my chair so I'm not looking directly at it. I can sit side by side in a restaurant if we're in a restaurant. There are all kinds of ways that I can either be annoyed and judgmental out loud or just in my head, and ways that I can compensate and adjust so that I don't have to really experience it and am avoiding it, even if he's made no changes. And then I'm feeling impatient so I can relax and enjoy my meals with my beloved. Well, there is such a wealth of personal growth and internal exploration to be had to get to the point where that doesn't bug you. So, for example, maybe you discover that it bugs you because other people are going to think less of you because you're with a man who chews with his mouth open.
Oh.
And you don't want people to think less of you. And so you want him to chew with his mouth closed so you feel better about what other people think of you. Well, if that's the case, you got to do your work and not look for other people to validate your choice in a life partner. Or maybe you discover that it feels immature to you and you can't really trust him deeply. Because if he can't chew with his mouth closed, what's he going to do with a family budget? That I'm sort of making things up, but I'm also not, because anything that annoys us, usually, sure, it's about the thing, but then there are all kinds of things underneath which are much more primal and not really specific to the situation. In this case, about looking for validation from other people about our choices in life, or um, being able to trust our partner when they're not perfect, given that no one is perfect. And then we have to explore our relationship to perfectionism. So, sure, we can be impatient and wait for our partner to change. But in the meantime, there's all kinds of growth with your name on it that allows you to be more sovereign, more beautiful, more aligned with your values and the woman that you want to be.
Mhm.
And I'll just share that it's sort of an amazing thing because I really made peace with this. My husband grew up in a family where they mostly ate TV dinners in front of the TV, and like mealtime manners were just, none of them are rude and they're all extremely educated people, but that just wasn't a thing in their family.
Mhm.
And it was very important to me. But my husband was like, stop telling me how to eat. Like,
Mhm.
he's a grown man, a Harvard graduate. What am I doing telling him how to eat? But
Yeah.
the fact is that somewhere along the way, when I totally let go of the issue, he became one of the most gracious dining partners I know. Now, he might not have, it might not have that kind of a happy ending, but it did. That's one thing. And then I'm also thinking of someone I know whose partner used to eat blueberries while they were in bed, and he would pop them in his mouth in a way like sucking them in, slurping in one blueberry after another, and she would go crazy. And so
Wow.
she told him to stop. And he said, he didn't say anything. He just left the bed and would eat somewhere else. But then she didn't get to be together with him and she didn't like
Mhm.
that solution. So then she said, no, I want you to stay. This is another time. This is not just a one-time thing. This is an ongoing thing. And he slurped in those blueberries. And so she asked him to stop. And he said, no, you can leave if you don't want to hear. And so there's been this whole evolution. And the thing that has been so shocking to her is that when he slurps his blueberries, it doesn't bother her at all.
Mhm.
So this is my very long and complex response to what about when you're impatient?
Mhm.
Because I'm assuming the two of you want the deep conversation, because with everything we can approach it more superficially.
Yeah.
but every single interaction has all these riches underneath that can be harvested.
Wow. That's wonderful. I, I know my issue was being raised. My father was very strict at dinner at the time. Like, sit, no elbows on the table, fork and a knife. You have to cut your pieces like this. How many times can you chew? Like, don't drink your water with your food. Must eat and then drink. Strict. And yes, I came to realize that with Steven, I had to approach it differently and see that I still once in a while will say like I would just call him Steven and he just knows why I'm he automatically knows what's the problem. And but I also it's true what you're saying. It will have to be come from me to learn to adjust and realize that it doesn't mean that just because my father trained me to eat like that, I should be putting such stress on him to not even enjoy his meals because he's busy watching me, waiting for me to say something about it. And he doesn't even chew with his mouth open. He likes just saying like, when food is good. So he verbalizes his enjoyment. And I think what you're saying is true that I might be taking away some of his enjoyment because I'm busy judging him.
It's even more than that. I'm so grateful you shared this because I'm guessing, and for anyone listening, like I've never had a conversation with either of you. I mean, you,
Yeah.
Jeanne, and I have done some messaging, but this is a new topic and I didn't know anything about your background until you've just shared that. But I'm guessing that one of your favorite things about Stephen is his more relaxed and carefree manner and his capacity to have fun and be spontaneous. Like, are these some of the things you love most
Yeah,
about this man?
definitely. Yes.
So you don't get to have that and have him embody the discipline and the sternness and the rules of your childhood.
True.
Now,
Oh my gosh, that's so true.
we're not looking to make the discipline and rules bad. And in
Mhm.
fact, if you have children, you'll be able to negotiate a real harmonizing of discipline and consequences and standards and spontaneity and fun and ease. Like that's the healing for you, Jeanne, is to have the both. But it is very easy to be drawn to someone who it feels like they have the missing pieces and then get upset for that being the case in the sense that I
Okay.
mean it right now. And so yeah, this is beautiful terrain for both of you to explore and for you, Stephen, to understand whenever she gets that expression and it's about how you're eating, that you get to decide, okay, am I good with who I am? And would I like to evolve in this way or not? And either way, what's happening is that Jeanne is experiencing a tension in herself. And I can choose when I want to relieve that tension and when I want to let it be hers.
Mm.
And you probably have something coming up about being criticized and have your whole side of the experience, even though we've only talked about it in terms of Jeanne's.
Mhm.
Oh no, she has a lot of valid points for my eating abilities. It's usually when I'm trying to. It's either when I start daydreaming, I start eating food faster, or mostly the other part is sometimes I'm in a rush and I just want to finish my meal. So like it's just like how fast can I shovel the food into my face? And then she's like, "You're gonna choke," which I understand because she's worried she might like lose me because of my poor eating habits.
Well,
So yeah,
yeah. And so
most
there's
of the
an
time I can't
awareness.
argue with it.
You could also just say, Stephen, I'm in a rush and I'm about to disappoint you, and just go for it.
Oh wow. Isn't she amazing?
I've never tried that. Being like, Jeanne,
Wow.
Because
That,
then when you do that, then you align with the adult conscious parts of yourselves.
mhm.
mhm.
Yeah.
You don't change your behavior, but it's not this unconscious child wounding triggering game.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, I'm the man, I'm mature, I get it. You're the woman, you're mature, you get it. And I'm about to do something that's going to trigger you. I'm not doing it to trigger you. I'm doing it because I'm in a rush. So please navigate as you choose.
Mm.
True. Wow. My
Because imagine,
goodness.
how would that be for you, Jeanne, if he basically made it informed consent? He's like, hey, I'm aware I'm about to do this. So see you on the other side.
It would be hilarious because I think just the fact that he just warned me, it would make me maybe even look forward to him telling me that, because it would
Right?
be almost like an inside joke that we have.
And
That's
as
great.
soon as he warns you ahead of time, then you don't have to feel responsible, which is
Mm.
the thing that gets complicated. And you don't have to feel responsible anyway, but that really highlights it when he warns you.
Mhm.
Jeanne already sometimes does that, where she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do nothing all day, and don't expect me to." Like when she's had a hard work week and she just wants to relax. And yeah, I think it's like pretty much what you're saying about the informed consent. Actually it's really nice because then I know not to bother Jeanne with any. Yeah.
Right? It sets you up
Mhm.
to win.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So I know you promised me 45 minutes. I'll try to keep it there. Um, as you said that both you and your husband came from divorced families.
Yeah.
And so when you were choosing to have a relationship with him and create intimacy and work together to be in this, how did you navigate the fear of feeling like what if we don't make it? Because okay, context. Sometimes I worry. I don't know why I I worry so much. I'm like, everyone we hear about is divorcing, and there's always that fear. Like, I don't want to divorce. I don't want to lose him. Like, he's added so much good things to my life, so much richness to my life. I don't want to lose him. But then I find that that fear actually interferes with me opening up and letting him in completely. I don't know if that makes sense.
I know exactly what you're saying. And I did not navigate it by fully healing that issue before committing.
Okay.
It is very intellectually appealing to have everything worked out and healed before, not before dating, well, obviously, but like before actually getting married. That is not what I did, and I don't really think it's possible, because there's some way in which, when it's theoretical, it's not as powerful as when we prove it to ourselves through experience. So what I can tell you is that when I got married, I simultaneously really loved my husband and felt like we had everything we needed to have a lifelong relationship.
Mhm.
And simultaneously, in my same head, I was clear that, of course, we would get divorced. There was no other way that this could possibly work out. It wasn't that I worried, it was that I was certain.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And when my daughter was born, we had her within our first year of marriage. I remember in the first year anyway, just watching my husband with her and mentally making notes to be able to tell her what a wonderful father he was and how good we were together. because of course in the future, neither of those would be true. And I would want to be able to tell him, be able to tell her, my daughter. So, but I always had both. And so early on, I couldn't figure out how to have the knowledge of our love and our life together overpower the certainty we would get divorced. But I did know how to not let the certainty we get divorced overpower the present experience of our love and relationship. And
Uh-oh.
no, I wasn't frozen. I was just thinking. Sorry. That's good. I love that you thought. No, I you'll cut this part out. So just give me a second. Mostly in my actions and in my feelings, to the best of my ability, I went with knowing that we had a beautiful relationship. I did not try to delete the worries from my mind. And over time, there just was more and more evidence that our relationship was blooming and blossoming. But I will say that the evidence that we were going to last did not come from the easy times and the peaceful times and the everything's fine times. I mean, maybe it did a little bit, but it more came from learning how to navigate challenges and trusting that we knew how to navigate challenges, starting with having the courage to navigate small challenges and then ending up having bigger challenges, like when I was able to say something about wanting to share some things so we could have a little more fun in the bedroom, things like that. Like, it took so much courage to bring something up, but when I did and we navigated it and then we felt closer, those are the experiences that really gave me hope and eventually certainty. Like, I have that voice being certain or even wondering if we'll get divorced. It doesn't exist in me anymore. I never had a funeral. I don't know exactly when it faded away, but it's been a long time. And as I say, it's finding ways to navigate challenges that really were inclusive of his experience and desires and my experience and desires are the thing that really supported that.
Wow. That's beautiful. Thank you so much. That's amazing. It's been lovely talking to you. I don't have to keep you too long from your family. I know it's a holiday. But thank you so much. I would love to talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, this was incredible.
This was incredible. And I'm so glad that Stephen, last minute, decided to join us.
Yes, you definitely added something. I'm so happy to have these conversations with both of your perspectives present, and I celebrate. This is one of those internet miracles. It's just so beautiful to connect with people that we might not otherwise have crossed paths, and it's been an honor speaking with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely.
It's been lovely. Yeah, thank you. And so on your socials, how can someone who wants to connect with you get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. Instagram is alexandra.stockwell.intimacy. You'll find me easily, Alexandra Stockwell, on Facebook. Please join the Facebook group where you are. It's called The Intimate Marriage with Alexandra Stockwell, MD. And my website is alexandrastockwell.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And congratulations on your podcast. That I hope and I know for sure that it's going to be amazing, because it's beautiful work that you're doing. It's really needed.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.